The House of Representatives is set to vote later today to censure Congressman Charles Rangel. The New York Democrat has been found guilty of ethical violations. WNYC reporter Azi Paybarah is covering this ongoing story, and he joins me now to discuss the latest developments. Hi, Azi.
How are you?
I'm very well. Listen, what's the House expected to do today?
They are expected to censure and give the harshest penalty short of expulsion to one of their most senior and recognizable members, Charlie Rangel. Censure is different from a reprimand in the sense that the person who's being punished actually has to stand in the well of Congress and actually be present while they are publicly rebuked by the Speaker of the House. A reprimand is basically a letter in your file that gets noted in the press, but there's no public shaming element to it.
Rangel has sent out a last-minute appeal to his supporters. What's that all about?
He is lobbying people, and he's basically running a campaign saying apply public pressure and let your voice be heard. So when your member of Congress goes down to the floor, they're not just considering the vote in the context of the House, but more in the context of what do voters in their districts want. And he's trying to posit himself as a popular character, someone who's still beloved, a war veteran, and someone who's been recognizable for decades in Congress.
What happens to Rangel's political career after the House acts? Will he still have a role to play in Congress?
This is the really interesting thing. A member of Congress has as much influence or power as sort of everyone agrees that they have. So if a member gets sanctioned, censured, and loses his quote-unquote seniority, well, that has as much impact as everyone else agrees it's going to have. Are members of Congress going to stop taking Rangel's phone calls? Is he not going to be as persuasive an advocate for the issues he's been caring about for so many years? And that's not entirely clear. Listen, the Democrats are going to go into the minority after having controlled the House for one term. He's already lost the chairmanship of the Ways and Means Committee due to the investigation, and he had stepped down to make sure he wasn't a political liability for Democrats. So he's lost the chairmanship. They're going into the minority. The question is, what more can Congress do to him?
He's lost all his power, in effect, or the majority of his power.
Well, the Democrats lost power, and that's going to hurt Rangel. But he himself, I mean, I have a hard time imagining a freshman Congress member sort of cutting in front of Rangel, in the cafeteria line or something like that. This is the guy who's going to be recognizable. He still has a lot of friends throughout Washington. Now, the question is, can he be an advocate for those issues he was fighting for? And the other question is, he's 80 years old. How much longer is he going to stay in Congress? He's going to be in the minority. He used to joke before that, you don't buy green bananas at his age. And even before this cycle, he had, mentioned at least once that he would retire from Congress if he was going into the minority. Now, that was a couple of years ago. I believe it was around 2006. When he's asked the question now, he says he has every intention of serving at the full term, but I don't know how many people believe that.
Will he still be able to bring home the bacon for his constituents, because he's been able to do that in the past?
That's a great question. The New York delegation is going to lose a lot of power because they're about to lose either one or two seats when reapportionment comes along. With the Democrats going into the minority, they're losing a number of key chairmanships, people that had a role in shaping the federal budget. They're going to lose that. They're going to gain several more Republican members into their delegation, so the size of the Democratic delegation shrinks. So Rangel is going to lose some level of clout, but it's because Democrats in New York in particular are losing clout.
One of the other areas that Rangel had clout, one of the reasons he had clout was he was a very good fundraiser for other politicians. Will that go away as well?
It seems that way. One of the pieces of evidence that the Ethics Committee was going to show against Rangel were a number of corporate titans, if you will, who said Rangel approached them for donations for the CUNY school that was going to be named in his honor. If you're not the chairman, if you're not in the majority, I don't know how quickly you get your phone calls returned when you're fundraising.
Thanks, Azi. Azi Paybarah is a reporter with WNYC, New York Public Radio, and we've been talking about Congressman Charles Rangel and the problems that he's facing.